All right, all right. It says we are live. Hello, Gun Nation. All right, if y'all do not know, and we'll get into, I've been saying hi to people and everything, but if y'all do not know, this is Harry's Holsters, Harrison. I'll let you go ahead and introduce yourself for the people that don't know yet and the people in the back.
Some of you guys probably know me. Some of you don't. I'm the owner of Harry's Holsters. Thanks, Mike, for having me on.
No problem. I appreciate you being on. Yeah, we've got some interesting topics this evening. Harry is, taking some classes, and he won't. I don't know the results of this class, but I asked him to shoot something different in the class, and he did it. He agreed to it. So, or I was like, "Hey, I think you should," and he was like, "Okay." So that's, I want to hear the results of it, and then also, I want you to kind of, for people who don't know, how many classes, and these are some of the questions I have. How many of the classes, or how many classes, like defensive classes or AR classes, whatever it is, how many classes have you taken total? Do you know?
I'd have to add them all up. It's enough that it's hard to add. Thunder Ranch, Kyle DeFore, Ernest Langdon, Scott Jedlinski, John Shrek McPhee, the sheriff of Baghdad. I did Revolver Roundup. There's probably one or two. I've taken a couple of local classes from a company called Everyday Ready. I don't know if they're still around or not. Tony Cowden. There's probably something else in there that I'm not remembering, but I think that's it.
Yeah, Pistol Pete has a good question. Have you ever thought about taking one from Ben Stoker?
The competition stuff is definitely, I've thought about doing it. My local range that I'm a member of, I can't remember who it is. Dave's trained with them. That.
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know who you're talking about. I don't know his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Is it Tomasi? Is it?
Yeah, is it David Tomasi?
Travis or
Travis Tomasi.
I think that's it.
I think he shoots for Team MPA, actually.
Yeah, I believe he teaches a class once a year at my local range, South Carolina. I'm not seeing it on his website, so maybe he's not the one. Okay. But I have thought about taking some competition-based classes, but I'm not a competition shooter. Most of my stuff is self-defense minded, and what I've realized mostly is my shooting skills are well above where they need to be. Where I am deficient is not shooting, it's everything around it. So it's tactics, low light, medical, that sort of stuff is where I could use a lot more training. I've kind of gone above and beyond what I need to on the purely shooting aspect. Now, competition shoot, if you're taking the class from Ben Stoker, I'm guessing he's teaching you things like match planning and how to get the most out of dry fire, but how to win a match strategically, not just how to put bullets in the target where you want them to go.
Yeah, he teaches LE and MIL and stuff like that too. Works with a lot of those groups. But now, as far as we've talked about the classes, but what type of guns in these classes? Like you mentioned, revolver roundups, so obviously revolvers. So, what type of pew-pews have you taken in these different classes? Like,
I've run revolvers a lot, but the majority has always been either a Glock 19, Glock 48, Glock 43 before the 43X and the 48 came out, or a Glock 17 and 1 or 2. Okay. The majority of it's been Glock 19 though.
Okay, so basically, I guess I should have rephrased that. So you're taking revolver classes, semi-auto classes, and then AR classes. Okay.
Yep.
And then which one out of the three platforms with revolver, semi-auto, and AR did you prefer the most? Or, I mean, I know they're different, but.
AR is a lot of fun when you get out to distance. One of the classes I took, we were able to shoot out to about 600 yards. That has a whole new set of challenges, and that's just fun. You never get to do that. My local range is 325 yards, and it's a really narrow bay. I never shoot there because it's a pain in the butt to get out to 325. It's just easier to sight them at the 100-yard range and then go shoot pistols in the bays. So but a lot of that's because I have limited access to it. If I could shoot 600 yards, once a month, I don't think that would necessarily be as exciting. I like the revolver stuff a lot because it's a different challenge.
Yeah.
You have to think a lot more strategically with the revolvers, and you really have to make your hits count. You don't have a 17 round mag that you can reload in a second and that you can just keep shoot. If you miss, take another shot with a minimal time penalty. Because with the revolver, you can shoot a revolver almost as fast as a semi-auto if you're good enough or pretty dang close. You just can't reload one. You've got 5 or 6 rounds in the gun.
Right.
So that's a pretty big limitation. But yeah, this last class, it was an MP5 operators course with a advanced pistol and a low light component to it. The company is Devil Dog in German Tactical. He's the guy that's been on all the videos for the 1911 Syndicate.
Yeah.
For the HK stuff. Tuffelhun Tactical, or I completely butchered that pronunciation, but he worked with Haley Strategic for a while. One of the AIs in the class was also on Haley Strategic's current roster, so he's a current Haley Strategic employee. So it was very similar to what not having taken a Haley Strategic class, but having watched videos, the curriculum and the thought process seemed very influenced by that. We started off day one doing pistols and the low light component. Then day two was MP5 with also a low light component. We probably shot 50 rounds of pistol or less on the second day.
Okay. Now on the pistol there, which pistol did you use?
So you talked me into running my Staccato P because.
And I don't know the outcome. So I want to hear the outcome. So you shot your Staccato P, and that was the first class you've ever shot it in. I guess that's the first amount of time, truly, other than at the range, you've spent with it. What did you think about it? How did it do? Because I don't know the answer, and I want to know the answer.
So when I was verifying everything on that gun before the class, the issues I was having. I had a CWP, what was it, CHPWS plate.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought one from them initially, and they didn't recall, but they almost did like a SIG upgrade type program, but worse than SIG because they gave you a $40 discount and you had to buy a new one, even though the old ones were just falling off after like 100 rounds, even after being properly torqued and thread locker and everything. And this other one also loosened up over time. And when I say over time, less than 500 rounds. I was using Vibratight, so the mount stayed on well enough, but there was enough looseness in the vertical aspect of it. I was still able to put together like a 6 to 8 inch group at 25 yards, but with that gun, I should be able to do better than that. And I was getting frustrated, and it turns out the mount was loose. So that was the issue. And then shooting close up under speed, I guess where the mount didn't have time to settle in at all, I was getting major vertical dispersion. And it was pissing me off because I was calling you up.
Yeah. Now, and after you fixed it, well, put it this way: how did you fix it, and then what was the results after it was fixed?
I just bought a Dawson plate and used that instead.
Yeah.
And after that, I was shooting a 1.5 inch group. I sent you the pictures at 15 yards with it. Yeah. That was a good group for me, but it shot a lot better. A lot better.
Now, in the class, like with your preparation and everything, what did you think about it? What kind of things did they put you through with the pistol at the class? What did you learn or like or dislike or whatever?
It was basic pistol 101. I'm not really going to say everything as far as the grip and what they taught. It's a method. I don't really have an informed opinion yet on all these different methods that instructors teach as far as grip and also trigger reset. They were teaching, Haley teaches, only reset the trigger as far as you have to, add all the numbers up, and it becomes a shorter distance you have to pull, whereas Ernest Langdon and Rob Latham teach, let that finger all the way out and pull through because it's faster. I'd like to see the two sides argue it out because they're both clearly competent. And is it a case of if you're excelling to this high level, slap the trigger, But if you're trying to get here, you're going to get here faster by using the reset.
Yeah.
So I think.
Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I think that might be the case, but I really don't know. I'd have to see them argue it out.
Yeah, and I mean, I can slap the trigger. I've slapped the trigger. I've ridden the reset. I've just came right off the reset and then re-engaged it. I mean, I've done, and then I've done the just, I mean, I've done it all different ways. The majority, especially like not under speed at an indoor range, I tend to ride the reset. You can hear it click, click. It's just a habit. But like during competition, I mean, I was like finger slapping or getting after it, because it is faster. But is it super more accurate for me? I don't really think it is. I think I get a little bit more opening up when I finger slap or trigger slap. But
so when I was taking Tony's class, we were back at 25 yards and we had C-zone size steel. I had my 17 and I was slapping the trigger, and Tony was using me as a example of the class. He goes, he's hitting, but understand most of you can't do that. I have a really good grip on that Glock, and I know what I can do with it. I was shooting that P2000 I got today. I can't trigger slap that and get the accuracy that I can with the Glock because my grip isn't as good with it.
Well, and also it's a heavier trigger, isn't it? Factory trigger?
LEM, it feels heavier, but I think it's just mostly the different characteristics on the LEM. And I'm not used to that grip. Now, if I get used to that grip, I can probably slap it just the same way I can with a Glock. I mean, hell, on the Staccato starting out, I couldn't slap it. And it's got a lot lighter trigger than the Glock.
That's weird. Yeah.
Nah, it's grip over everything.
Well, and also, I was going to say for that one, it's got the curved trigger and it's a medium, so you might do better with a shorter trigger, like we were talking about, when you were kind of playing around with it. Now, as far
honestly, I think the medium's about perfect. I would rather have the flat though.
Yeah, I really, and this is just a personal thing. I'm not hating on anybody, but I do not like curved triggers. I mean, if I can put it this way, if I have an option to have a flat over a curved, even AR, whatever it is, I always prefer the flat. That's just me.
And for me, it depends on the gun. Like the CZP-01, I prefer that over the CZP-01 Omega. But on the HK P2000, I'd much rather have one of the Gray Guns triggers.
Yeah.
So it's really gun dependent.
And like I said, it's whatever people prefer on the platform that they prefer. So there's no wrong or right there. It's just, and maybe because I shot curved triggers forever because that's all they had other than 1911s. 1911s offered them back in the day, but they also had flats, depending on the kind that you got. But once I started shooting flats, I just noticed it helped my reach a little bit more, versus having it cut in, where I lose some of the reach. And that's why I can always, I mean, you can look at some of mine now and they've got a little wear spot. So I'm just hitting that exact spot all the time. And I found with a curved trigger, especially if I'm slapping it, I go in to hit the little part that would leave a mark on a flat trigger, but then I get a little bit of a slide down with the curve. And sometimes it makes my finger, like, it's weird, but it makes it do a circle versus, it's sliding down. And that's what I don't like. So, And Pistol Pete has a really good comment here. He says, on the discount code, if you put a discount code in, Ken Hackathorn, he'll send you a free red dot.
Knowing Wilson, they will charge you MSRP for it.
He's joking. Remember, Ken Hackathorn hates lights and red dots. But here's another question kind of leading into that. And I know probably what you're going to say, but just so people kind of, like I said, I kind of interview and ask some of these standard questions or different questions. But what is your favorite carry gun or brand to carry? I know the answer, but maybe they don't.
I mean, it's not really favorite, but it's practical. It's kind of like, if you live in a small town and you got to drive 2 hours to get to a dealership and there's one car dealership in your town, a lot of time that's where you're going to drive because you can get service. And that's why right now it's Glock and Kimber, believe it or not. And it's the Kimber revolvers, not the.
I was going to say,
semi-autos. I've been carrying that Kimber K6 XS a lot.
Yeah.
And I really like it.
Yeah. G23 says he's reviewing a Harry's holster right now. That's awesome.
Nice.
Yeah, that's awesome. Which one are you reviewing? Is it the Icon G23 or is it, which one is it? I don't know. He's got different ones. And then Ohio Gun Guy, our gear guy, he has a Staccato P Heritage and put an Acro on it, loving it. Good
I
setup.
believe he's reviewing the Icon or the Icon 856 in a 3-inch variant.
Okay. Uncle Dan's on the chat too. He's telling you
What's
hello.
up, Uncle Dan?
Yeah. And somebody earlier was asking about 1911 holster or 1911 magazines. My preference is Wilson Combat. Now you can use Metgar, you can use other ones, and some of those will work great. But what I found with the Wilson, it always has the anti-tilt follower, and I've had some of the other ones nosedive depending on your caliber, 9mm, 45, etc. But I've just found that Wilson Combat, and of course they bought Chip McCormick. I have some old Chip McCormicks too, but even over the piano wire that spun, I still prefer the Wilson Combats, even over the old Chip McCormicks. Nothing wrong with either, but that's just my preference. Oh, Armsman's on here. Hello, Armsman.
What's up, Armsman?
Yeah, he says good to see you.
Hey, Scott.
Now, yeah, Scott's on here, and then also, so your favorite carry gun or platform is Glock. Do you have a favorite size or a favorite model of the Glock?
I really like the 48.
Okay.
It's very slim, very concealable. You can still shoot it very accurately. You definitely can't shoot it as fast as a 19, but I'll take accuracy and concealability all day long over speed. I mean, heck, I carry revolvers a lot of the time, so speed is obviously not that much of a concern.
Okay, here's another question. These are going to be your hot takes. Okay. Weapon-mounted light on a gun. Do you prefer it, not prefer it? And these are personal opinions.
This is the class I took this weekend, had a large low light component. So handheld lights, what I learned this weekend as far as the low light stuff was you want a handheld light that has momentary. The light I was running did not have momentary on, and it was constant on, but it was a programmable constant on. So it has, high, medium, low with memory. So you set it to high, you turn it off, and it comes back on high. You set it to low, turns back on. But what I was having problems with was I was turning it on and off, but because it was doing it so rapidly, based off checking things, it was switching between the different modes. So I'm scanning for targets and doing so tactically, where you're just doing it in bursts at different height levels and stuff to keep your position somewhat obscured. And that didn't work at all. So right now I'm on the search for a small, thin, decent output light with one, high output only that has a momentary option. And I'm not finding much that's actually thin. The new mod light looks interesting, but of course I've got no word when that's going to drop. And everything else I found is just way too big. I found some like Phoenix lights, I think. Streamlight makes one, but they're too big.
Some of my favorites are the Wedge. Their flat one that looks like a Microtech knife. I
don't think that has momentary, does it?
No, you can kind of manipulate it, but I do like it for the the fit and the feel of it. I like the Wedge, the full size. I have the Wedge XT, which is a smaller one, and then I have the big Wedge. I prefer the big Wedge just with my hand, but I like the normal one's fine too, the smaller one. But and then so do you prefer a flashlight on your gun? Now, I carry a pocket light. I'm not going to flash my gun down an alley or something or a hallway.
This is what I found out in this class. Like, you think about from a concealed carry perspective. The gun on the light becomes a nuisance because you're going to have if you have to, a lot of times you can see to shoot something long after you can see to identify what's out there. Like, I can see a rough shape, and with the red dot on my gun or even tritium sights, I can extend out and get good hits on target when I still can't tell what that thing is. I can tell it's a thing. I can tell it's a human, but I can't tell if it's a threat. So you're going to need a handheld to verify it's a threat before you start brandishing a weapon. And then once that happens, if you're going to go to a weapon light, what are you going to do with your other light? You've got the finger rings and that sort of thing. You could just drop it, but then that could present its own set of issues, unless it's a momentary only light. And then I really think for concealed carry, there's not a lot of situations. There's very few where the weapon mounted light becomes pivotal. And if you are going to carry a weapon mounted light, you need to have a handheld light that is of equal or greater power to what your weapon mounted light is. But if you are in a tactical situation, or if the shit hit the fan, like worst case scenario, yeah, weapon mounted light. I think we do have to draw a distinction between, things going, hey, the system is in place, everything is the same when you wake up tomorrow, but you've had a bad situation you've had to be in, versus all of society is collapsing.
Yeah.
In that case,
the way that I look at it, and I think that there's multiple benefits for having a light on your gun. Not only if you, don't even use it, like I've said before, frame weight, rapid fire, it helps with muzzle control, etc. But also I use it as a thumb rest.
Yep.
So, I'm really cranking down on it. And I don't have a problem with guns flipping anyway, even with light or no light. It just gives me a place for my thumb, because otherwise some of these shorties, it's at the damn end of the barrel. So I don't like that, but it gives me a place to put my hand. But then also I look at it, some of the areas I travel, walking across the parking lot, multiple people, and, they're throwing a bottle at, shit's just getting crazy. Then, yeah, I'm firing it on, and, not saying I'm, letting it loose, but I'm turning the light on, because it could potentially, get the hell, oh God, whatever's going on. Not saying that's wrong or right. I think it's just situational, or I might just hit the, the handheld. It just depends. But I think for certain applications, it could benefit somebody to have it or not have it. I just think it's kind of like it's there. So if I need it, I got it.
If you're willing to carry it, I think it's fine. And, we're coming out with light bearing holsters in the next probably 6 months. Something we're working on actively right now.
You knew that was coming. You knew that was coming.
Yeah,
but okay. So we had, you had your handheld in the classes, and then you had your weapon mounted light where you were using it. Other people in the class were using it. Did you hear any of their feedback as well? I mean, from their perception, people like it, not like it. What, when y'all were sitting around?
It was pretty much unanimous. Once you were on target firing, the weapon mounted light's a much easier solution. You're not having to shoot one handed.
Yeah.
But also, people were surprised how well they could shoot one handed once they got the hang of that. And that's another takeaway from the class, is just learn to shoot with one hand. A lot of things you are doing in life, you're carrying something, whatever, and just naturally, I mean, it's not your instinct to drop your groceries, drop a box of whatever you're carrying out or whatnot, and go for your gun. So you probably need to practice your one-handed draw, getting it out there. And I naturally carry stuff on my left side, so my right hand is free most of the time. As weird as it sounds, I might not drop my briefcase or my backpack just out of habit.
Well, and I look at it as if you had to hold a child back, or you had to, there's all kinds of situations for different people. So I think, maybe being able to do all that, you might not be in that situation where you can either way. And of course I'm right-handed, and that's the thing I always think about. And I've thought about this before, and it's funny that you bring it up. Okay. I'm right-handed. And you are too. So you're going to draw with your right hand, correct?
Yep.
What pocket is your flashlight in?
My left.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Here's where I make a mistake. I have it in my right. Now,
my phone's in my right, my knife's in my right.
I've got 80-inch arms, so I can still reach over and take it out of the pocket, but it's just not as common because I always put the flashlight in the right pocket. And the other day I was putting the holster, the gun was loaded in the holster. I was sticking in my pants, and I was like putting it in there, and I'm like, and as I went in, I had the bigger flashlight on, and so I bumped it, and I'm like, okay, I got the flashlight in the right pocket. I'm right-handed. I'm like, I probably need to move some stuff around. So, but it's just been there for 100 years, and that's where it's always ended up because I got the pocket knife and the flashlight in the right pocket. So the pocket knife goes in first and pushes all the way. The flashlight's next.
And
So,
I've got some stuff I'll talk to you about as far as lights offline, an idea I had at that class that might change the position of where you carry a light.
yeah. Now,
But
and then I guess some people, like Uncle Dan's asking, where was the class and who put this one on that you
so
were
this
in?
was at Frontline Defense, North Carolina, and let me try to pronounce.
And while you're looking that up, I've seen some people asking. Somebody asked, "Do you have a Shadow 2 compact holster available?" I didn't know.
I do not. I do
Okay.
not. And I'm not sure if we'll do that or not. And here
Okay.
I'm putting the name of the company in the chat for you guys. Tufel Tactical, I think. I think it is Tufel Hund. All right, so let me answer these holster questions. I've got a few of them. All right, so Dirt Track, the P365 AXG Legion. Legion, we're probably not going to be doing that in the next couple of months. I'm hoping to have something out for it in the next 6 months, but it's relatively low production, relatively low demand, and they made that gun just this much different, just enough different that you can't use it with a regular P365 macro holster. I'm not going to say some macro holsters, depending on where they're sitting on spec, might actually work, but you go buy 100 holsters from a manufacturer, 90 out of 100 of them are not going to work for that Legion, and they made it just that much different. Not a light-specific version for it, but we might have something that will work for it with a TLR 7 sub. All right. Any other questions? The Prodigy, I think.
Yeah, Prodigy.
TLR 1 holster. When light bearing comes out, we have something that might fit that. The Prodigy. The 2011 stuff we got to play around with more. They make all their trigger guards just a little bit different, and that's annoying. Like, it's annoying enough that we'd love to be able to have a staccato holster fit a Prodigy, fit the MPAs, fit what the Masterpiece arm, like everything that's out there. But I'm not sure on the Prodigy because we get a lot of requests for staccatos. We have not had requests for the Prodigies because I don't think many people are carrying those, to be honest with you. And we're concealment over OWB all day long.
And I think, again, when you have a light bearing, your light bearing will probably fit a Prodigy, a staccato,
correct.
But 1911 with the light,
rail,
getting retention on the light. So versus the trigger guard. So I think that problem will be probably well handled. This is a question, I don't know if I've ever asked you, and I've known you for 5 years, something like that.
That's scaring me.
Yeah. So, but I don't know if I've ever asked you this. How old were you when you got into guns? You're not old, you're not old by any means, but I don't know if I've ever asked you that.
Probably around 3 years old.
Okay. So
my parents had a good friend back then who was going through a divorce, and he ended up living with us at a certain portion of that. And he shot cowboy action. He was really into horses, and he shot cowboy action as his hobby. And he had a daughter who was probably like 15 years older than me or whatnot, but he never had a son. So like, he's going through this divorce. He's living with us. So he's like trying to do, my parents wouldn't, so he'd do nice things for me as like a thank you to my parents. So he bought me like all the cowboy gear a little 3-4 year old would want. So I had all the cap guns, everything. I had like a full like custom leather holster.
Wow.
That I was able to wear till I was like 7 years old for my cap gun. It was pretty, like legit.
Yeah, that's nice.
Cost like 25 times more than the cap gun, I'm sure.
Wow.
I've still got that actually, but that's how I got into guns. And then it kind of led to get me really interested in history. I grew up when I was little. I watched the same stuff your dad probably watched growing up.
Yeah.
The Lone Ranger, Gunsmoke. I started off with Roy Rogers, Gene Autry,
I
and the Lone
watched that
Ranger.
shit too. I watched all that too. I was all into that Rifleman. I mean, what was it? What was the Stagecoach one? I can't remember. Crap, something about the Stagecoach. But yeah, I watched all that stuff too. I loved all that old Western stuff, and of course, we like the Dirty Harry movies and all that kind of Clint Eastwood. I mean, those were awesome. Charles Bronson, that was some awesome stuff too. That dude was a badass, man.
He was like 50-some years old and a stud. Like, he's what we all want to be when we're his age.
And he looked like a damn bodybuilder when he was like in his 30s or 20s. I mean, that guy was freaking jacked. So
he looked like he was jacked. He was older than you think than that. Yeah. He was like 40s.
Yeah, but that guy was a beast.
I think Rogan and them talked about him on a podcast, and they're saying he wasn't even on, like, I think that was like too early for a lot of the steroids too.
Yeah.
Like, just a freak of nature and really good shape.
Yeah, he was probably just one of those kind. All right, so we've kind of on the weapon light, we've kind of been like, yay, nay, take it, use it if that's what you got, or use both, have both. But red dot on a pistol, yay or nay?
Depends on your level of willingness to train and your level of entry. Like, are you going to dry fire regularly? Are you going to maintain your weapon? The average person who's going to not carry every day, not pick up a gun every day and dry fire it, not maintain it, no. But if somebody's willing to maintain it, maintain a level of proficiency, and like there were some people in the class that were shooting red dots, and these people are the people spending quite a bit of money to go to this class. These people were from all over the country. I was one of the 5 people there from a 500-mile radius. So these people were spending serious money to get there, taking serious time off work. And a lot of them still were not proficient enough to carry a red dot in self-defense, I'd say. You just got to figure out where you are skill-wise. And I think that's something you go to the range and be honest with yourself. Just because, I think we talked about it with a family member of yours.
Yep.
And, if they're not willing to put in the time, no. But if you are, I can make 75-yard shots on steel with my left hand with my Glock 48 with a dot. There's no way I can probably do that past 25 with irons.
And I noticed that it helps me a lot too. I mean, because, I have poorer vision because I'm older, my eyes are aged. And so the sight focus, lining everything up, can I still do it? Yes. Am I slower at it? Yes. Am I more proficient with the dot? Has it benefited me as older-eyed person? And I think that I've not mastered it. I would never say that ever. But am I more proficient with the dot? Yes. But I've spent a lot of time with it too. But I kind of proved it, with those family members when I took them. They've never shot a pistol ever. And then I let them shoot an iron version and the same manufacturer, a dotted version. And once I kind of said, look at the target, let the dot get in the way, they were having much better hits instantly. However, now they've got the gist of it. It's working on that and just honing that in and having them, become better with it. But I think it was, groups going from here with irons to here with a dot. It's at like 5 yards, 7 yards. So I think it definitely helped them. And they were like, oh, wow, that helps. I don't have to line, equal height, equal light shit.
It does help, but there is a difference, though, and this is where I think a lot of people lose the argument, like revolvers versus semi-autos. If you take somebody to the range, you've got them setting up in the stance, you're explaining everything to them, explaining how to pull the trigger, how to hold the grip, how to look at the sights, and they're shooting at a paper target at their pace, that's going to be different than a reaction distance. And that's where people, that's where I think, from what I've seen, revolvers are just as accurate as semi-autos in the average shooter's hands in a reaction scenario, not a range target scenario. Yeah, and I think it's kind of the same for red dots.
Yeah, you're talking somebody drawing the pistol, bringing it up to their eye, not searching for the dot, taking all day or whatever.
Correct.
So I get that, and I would agree.
And I'm assuming this is a person who does not have a level of training to where anything's going to come through of like, hey, this is the order of events I do it. They're sitting there going, oh, crap, there's somebody in front of me. I know I need to get this gun out. What do I do next?
Yeah. And this is a comment for you, I'm sure. Witness marks and torque wrenches are important with dots too.
Yeah. But, hey, I didn't do the witness marks on that because it wasn't a carry gun,
know.
but I did do the torque, and that does, like I said, I've had 2 mounts on that gun go off, and it's holding fine right now. I'll double check it. I'll go to the range, but how I was shooting in the class, I've got 0 concerns at this point. But the quality of the mount definitely matters.
Yeah.
And companies that make a quality mount for Glock MOS, not necessarily for a lot of the other guns. And I know there's been a lot of Walther issues too.
And, with the staccatos, I've had a lot of people ask me, like, which dot should I get for my staccato? And I'm like, get Dawson, because they work, they're right there with staccato. I mean, all the time. They're on the same property pretty much. And they're designing them around those guns. So not saying other, plates won't work for other type of guns like polymer guns and things like that. But, when you're dealing with something like that, tolerances matter, tightening. But, I've always been in the habit when I put a dot on, I always, torque it properly with my fat wrench, and I always mark it. And of course I use blue Loctite. And I know you can use Vibratite as well, but I'm just an old school, blue Loctite guy from way back. But I just think those are some keys there, because you can simply look at it. Oh man, my witness marks are off. If you notice a problem, and I know exactly what's happening here. So that's just a quick. And I do that with AR dots. Anything I'm torquing down. In aviation, it wasn't witness marking; it was safety wire. So you have to, do the counter, so you're keeping it always tight with your safety wire. Kind of the same scenario. And I even did it with race car engines where you're pulling a lot of torque, and things like that. I would even safety wire header bolts and stuff like that. And people are like, "Why are you drilling holes in those nuts?" And I'm like, "Because I'm going to use safety wire." And they're like, "What?" It was just a thing I did. It is a pain in the ass to drill nuts, but and that doesn't even sound right. I should probably, somebody will probably use that as a meme. I drill nuts. And then, as far as, okay, so we agree, on the dots. If you're going to maintain them, keep them proficient, change your batteries, keep an eye on everything, make sure you're good. And this is a question I get asked a lot, and you and I have talked about this too, but I wanted to bring it up in case people are wondering. We all, or a lot of us on this chat, we have AR platforms, whether it be an AR-15, 300 blackout, PDW, whatever, AR-10, 6.5 Creedmoor, whatever. Okay, on your AR platforms, is there a reason? Now, you and I don't live in commie states. A lot of people on this chat don't, but some do. Is there any reason for a person who lives in a non-commie state to have less than a 20 or less than a 30 round mag?
Not that I can think of. I mean, well, yeah, like the 24 round Glock mags, because from a tactical standpoint, or when you're using them, they're not as bulky and they're not going to get in the way of things like a 33 rounder would. If the length of the mag is not inhibiting movement, there is no reason not to get as many rounds in that gun as you can.
Okay. Now, think about this. In an AR platform, is there any reason, I'll give you a hint, any reason to have less than a 30 round mag?
Bag guns, 20 round mags in an AR. I run my CMMG Descendants bag gun, keep a 20 rounder in there. It's cut. Now, that said, there's a 30 round spare in the bag, but if I put a 30 rounder in that gun, it is too tight to get out of that bag quickly.
And think about it also, if you had to jump in the prone, 30 rounders don't work very well.
They work well enough.
You can. No, I'm saying you can, but if you've got a bipod on it, you've got a freaking, that 30 rounder becomes a kickstand. So, the way I look at it, and in a lot of my bag guns, I'll keep 20 rounders, in it, sometimes 30 rounders. But, when it's in a bag and you're deploying it, the 30 rounder is a big, huge snag point that a lot of people don't think about. Now, granted, you want as many rounds as possible on tap. I get it, and I'm the same way. But when it's in the bag, sometimes those 20 rounders are very, very friendly to pulling it from a bag, especially if you're doing it quickly. If you're just sitting there all day, yeah, you can move it to the left and pull it around the mag or whatever. And also, I've noticed, quick, because I keep slings on them. So when I pull them out quick, sometimes the sling, just because in the bag it's moving around sometimes, and I keep it strapped to the side, but sometimes it pops off and it'll get hung up in the mag. So you'll go to deploy it and you got your sling kind of wrapped around your mag and you're like, oh crap, and I find it less cumbersome and that doesn't happen as much with the 20 round mags. So
Yeah.
I get asked that all the time, like, do you ever run 20 round mags? Yeah, I've got a bunch of them, but naturally, if we're just standing there, yeah, I like a 30 round mag, but
I'll
sometimes,
say this too: a lot of guns look better with 20-round mags in them.
yeah, oh, they do look better, yeah, yeah, and you and I have talked about this too, because I know you have them, I have them, drum mags, okay,
Yeah.
I've got them for the 308, which is a D50, so it's got 50 rounds of 308. And then the D60, 60 rounds of 5.56, 223. How do you feel about drum mags? Let's just say Magpul drum mags. They're a reputable company, reputable drum mag.
I own a bunch of them. They are. I mean, it depends on what you're using the gun for. If I were hog hunting out of a helicopter, I'd probably want them. And if you ever had to use the gun in certain competitions, any situation where weight is not an extreme penalty, because they do add a lot of weight to the gun. If you want to have 60 rounds on tap, like we've talked about before, a mag coupler, taping 2 mags together is going to get you 60 rounds on the gun in a lot lighter format than running a D60. But, 60 rounds on tap,
Yeah.
if you're in a situation where you don't have to carry that gun far, or if you're in a situation where weight is not that big of a consideration, go with a D60 or cost. Because they're not cheap.
Yeah. And the way I look at it, tripod, yeah. If I had to bolt one up at the front door and that's where it is, yeah, it's going to have a drum on it. But, in carrying them, like throwing them in a bag, they're freaking, I love them, don't get me wrong, and they work. All mine have proven out. They work well. They're a pain in the ass to load. I think we can all agree upon that. It takes a while. I'm not saying you can't do it. It just takes a while. And it'll wear some thumbs out. And I've used loaders, where I've used my regular flat loader. I'll stick it on the end and I'll ram, 30, and then, I'll do it that way. And it does actually work and help. And I've done it with 308 and the AR-15. But, those things loaded, what are they, like 4.5 pounds or something for one of them?
They're pretty heavy. And
Yeah.
Uncle Dan made a good point here. He was talking about the 40-round P-Mags.
Yeah.
They're too bulky, in my opinion. I've got 1 or 2 of them, and I never see myself maybe for home defense, like from a static standpoint with 300 blackout, because a D60 is not going to work with 300 blackout.
Yeah.
Maybe. I'm not sure how they run with 300 blackout.
And what I like is when I put them in a bag or put them in my range bag or whatever, they got those big old drums sitting in there. They're just awkward, and then you stack your mags on top and they fall over. Of course, the flat mags, you can stack them up. That's what I do. And like you said, with the couplers, I've found that they work really well. And the couplers, I've got a bunch of couplers, and I've got some coupled together, and they work great. Never had a problem with them. And it's still right there. It's literally, you're doing this and you've got it. So, but yes, it is a true mag change. But I think if I was, we've talked about this before, like a go bag scenario, I'm not taking drum mags with me.
No.
I'm just not. If I'm, like go bag situation.
Depending on the go bag, I might even go with aluminum mags over P mags just to save weight, depending on what the go bag was. If it's something loaded in the back of my truck as a get home bag, that's going to have P mags in it with the pop the top thing, just to make sure everything stays in place.
Yeah, and I've got aluminum mags, and I actually really like them. Now, let me rephrase this. I've got the new generation aluminum mags, and if I had old mags, they've got the new anti-tilt followers, where you change the guts in them and upgrade them. So I've done that. I've got the OKs, I got the Duramags and all that stuff. And I do like the aluminum mags, but I will say this. If you drop them enough and say you're dropping mags and you got some mags on the ground, they can, if they go down and hit a mag just right, they can dent. I've had it happen to one of them. It was only one. And then it stuck the follower. It was just dented just slightly in the perfect spot. Would that happen in a million years? Maybe not again, but it bent right at the perfect spot, and then the follower was stuck. So all I did was take it apart and pop it back out. But I'm just saying that can happen, and I've never had that happen on a polymer mag. So, for what it's worth.
Yeah.
Like I said, once in a blue moon, that's probably all that's going to happen.
You see Uncle Dan talking about the quad mag lower? I don't know if he's talking about a lower or if he's talking about the old Surefire mags.
No, they've got the new quad. I mean, they got that new one with that big old mouth on it where you can put, it's like one mag and it holds 60 rounds or something, and you just put the one mag in it. And I think it's what he's talking about, the real wide open.
Do you remember the old Surefire mags?
Yeah, they still have them. I've never used one. Have you?
No, but everything I hear is kind of like, you buy X amount, one might work.
Yeah.
And it'll work really well, and you can't stop it from working, but the rest of them, good luck.
Yeah, and that's what
that would be better than a D60 if it worked, though, I think.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. Because you could stack two of those on top of each other, and you could put a coupler on it if somebody made a coupler, or you could 3D print one, and then you'd have freaking 120 on tap. So that wouldn't be a bad thing either.
It'd be a little too heavy.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you're talking about a heavy gun. That sucker.
That might cause your mag release to fail.
I was going to say that would it would rip your mag apart, or something would happen, because that thing, or it wouldn't run because it would be so heavy and trying to tilt out. Yeah, that'd be crazy. I've never tried one of those straight 60s though. I think Surefire makes it, and there's another company who just started making them, but I don't know how reliable they are. Yeah. Oh, Bald's got it right. This is what 2 words, belt fed. Yes.
Yeah, I wish.
Unless you're the guy clipping them all together, that would be the pain in the ass there. But
have you seen that Ohio ordinance belt fed? Speaking of belt feds,
is that the one I sent you, or is that a different? No, that's a different one. Isn't it? Are you talking about from SHOT Show?
Yeah, the 338.
Yeah, I saw it, but no, I haven't seen one in person.
I haven't seen one in person, but the videos, that thing looks amazing. Yeah.
Man, can you imagine having a belt-fed 338? Whew. Holy smokes!
It might be a good thing. I'm saying this in jest, obviously, but it might be a good thing we're not allowed to have machine guns, because I might be a lot poorer right now with that thing out. I don't even have a place to shoot it.
You know how I feel about that. We should all have whatever we want, but because I want a tank too. So
you can buy the tank. You can actually get the gun on it. You just have to file a $200 tax stamp on the gun, and then file another $200 tax stamp on every shell that you put in it.
Yeah, but I think it'd be cool to roll around in that. And I've seen some of the, I've sent you pictures of them too. I've got some shops that take the old Humvee ones and completely retro them, and I'm just like, oh shit, I want that. Like that one I sent you, that thing's like, and he's got like 300 plus in that thing. That thing is insane.
It was nice.
Imagine an H1 rolling down the road at 120, 130 miles an hour. Good Lord. That'd be worse than a Cybertruck hitting you right there. But, matter of fact, my wife, she sent me a picture. She saw a Cybertruck the other day, like literally in person, and she's like, what the hell is this? And I've shown it to her. I guess she's just never seen one in person. She's like, what the hell is this? And I was like, oh, that's a Cybertruck. And she took a picture, of it rolling by her. And she's like, that's ugly as shit. And I was like, yeah, they're not pretty, but, I would never have one, but, to each their own. And then as far as, and this is, I'm gonna put you on the spot now. Okay, so you own Harry's Holsters. You've got all these holsters. What is your favorite holster that you make to wear?
Man, it's the Infiltrator. Like, straight up. I love the icons. The Masterpiece, which is our concept holster, when that comes out, that's going to have a special place in my heart because it's revolvers. It's a little bit old school. It's got a resto mod type deal.
Yeah.
going on. But the Infiltrator is just the most practical holster. It's the most comfortable. It's just so easy to get on and off. Conceals really well. It's a holster you can really live with.
Yeah. Yeah. And people usually ask, "Oh, what am I carrying this week?" I'm actually carrying a Glock. So, been carrying that Glock. Well, I carried it all of last week and this week. So, the Glock 19X, the custom one. Uh, but it's it's light bearing, so it's not in your holster. It's an Armsman's. But I really, since I've gotten that Radian, I'm actually appreciating that Glock a little more, and not just because it has a comp. It had a comp before, but it's just I'm actually kind of liking it. But I'm not going to become a Glock card. Don't worry about any of that. Y'all know that I carry all kinds of different things, but I love my 2011s. I won't ever go away from them. This is a great question that Clyde's asking. Let me get back to it. This one must have snuck by because this would be a good question for you. Do you prefer just a dot or circle dot, and which color?
Me, so I'm a regular dot guy. I'd rather have a plain dot. I've got astigmatism pretty bad, so stuff starts getting really blurry with the circle dot. It's just way too much. And I'm
Are you there? You froze. That's not me. I think I'm still good. So he's a dot guy. Yeah, okay. I think I know his answer. He's a dot guy, single dot guy, and he likes the red, I believe. And I would probably agree with that if that's where he's going with this. I'm a dot guy. Now, if you're dealing with a holographic site or something like that, circle dot, if you've got the option, I guess I lost him. If you've got the option to turn off, like change the reticle, sometimes I still prefer the single dot. But if you've got a high vis window, like a real monster window, sometimes the circle dot's not bad. It's just when you have a circle dot and it takes up the whole freaking window, that's what I don't like. So I'm a regular dot guy, and I tend to kind of go for the red. Um, but like I said, on the fiber optics, I prefer the green. So it's kind of weird. But and I agree with the other dot can just become too busy in a smaller pistol dot for me. Maybe not for other people. Biden moment, yeah. Well, he's in a hotel too this evening, so we might have lost him. I'll shoot him a text real quick. Hopefully he can jump back on. If he jumps back in, I'll let him in. Yeah, and like I said, some people really love the circle. There's no wrong or right. It's whatever you prefer. Shoot what you like, use what you like. I know a lot of people that love the circle. So go ahead and roll with that. The amber dots. Yeah, I have not ever used one. I've seen the gold one. Holosun had the gold one for colorblind people, and I did look through that, and it wasn't bad. I just don't know how, like in bright sunlight, being kind of a goldish, if that would just blob out. I just don't know. So that could be an issue. It might not be an issue. I haven't looked at one out in the sun, so I really don't know. Oh, here he is. Let me get him back in here. Come on, where's my dot? Or where's my thing? All right, there you are.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened.
Yeah, it just froze and then it jumped off, but you're fine now. So what were you saying about the dot?
So basically, my eye sees the red a lot better. Remember back, I bought a green Holosun to try it out because everybody's saying green's brighter. It looks so much clearer. The green is the blurriest thing I've ever seen. The red's pretty clear in the Holosuns relative to most dots. I really don't care for the green. Can't see it as
Yeah.
well.
And the ones that I've tested, and that's what I've experienced, like with my astigmatism. For some reason, and everybody has different astigmatisms. We don't all have the same. I've already checked with my optometrist and all that. Everybody can see things differently. But my green, and it is a hollow sun, it's a little fuzzier and not as clear as the red hollow sun because I've got that exact red one and that exact green one. And the green is more blurry. Now, could it just be the hollow sun green? It could be. I don't know. I haven't experienced a whole bunch of other green ones. So that's why I say that about the green, but maybe there's a green out there that would be perfect for me. I don't know. But yeah, and then we were talking about the circle versus the dot. So your circle one is more busy. But what about on a holographic site? Does the circle
even on an EOTech or even on a rifle optic? Like I would run the Romeo 8T gladly. I want to pick one of those up and check it out. I still want to check out I did check out one of the Romeo 4Ts, 4 Tacticals at that class, and I plan on getting one of those when funds free up a little bit because it seemed like a great.
And you would run the dot
option.
on those? You would run the single dot on those as well?
No, I would run I'd run the full reticle. The pistol dot, it's just a little too compressed, and
that's what I was saying when you fell off. I was like, if you've got a holographic or a big, a bigger window, the circle doesn't bother me. It's just when you're, it's really, kind of smashed down is where I find.
And with that MP5 at 7 yards, I'm just using the bottom of the ring. With an AR, my honey badger 7 yards, I'm using that bottom of the ring, and it's getting me within an inch of point of aim, point of impact versus being 4.5 inch holdover.
Now there's two more questions that I had, so I'm glad you were able to come back. Okay, in the class, and I don't know if people, heard it before, but you're running dots, and there were some issues that I wanted to talk about. So that's one of the questions. And then the other one, it was a pistol / MP5 class. So everybody was running MP5s as well, or MP5 clones, or whatever it might be. So what was your
one guy ran a Sig MPX? One guy.
Okay. So PDW / setup like that. 9mm PCCs or whatever. That's like that. That's just kind of put it at that. What was yours and other people that you were seeing in the class on the MP5s / PCCs? What were their thoughts? Were there any failures on the MP5s? Were there any issues?
There were failures. The failure rate definitely seemed, I'm going to say about half the guns in the class were legit HKs. The other half were Zenith, PTR, and MKE or AP5s. I'm going to say we saw probably a slightly higher failure rate with the clones. We did see some problems with the HKs, but some of those were pretty high round counts. Some of those were also parts kits guns. And one of them that had issues, the guy was running a full auto trigger pack.
Ooh.
So the full auto trigger packs, there were a few transferable guns in there, some guys that were SOTs. Okay. So different clientele than normal.
Yeah.
And I got to run one full auto, which was, it's easier to get a small group with that gun full auto than it is if you were to just mag dump 30 rounds. Because you get your point of aim, hold on, dump it, and you're good to go. Yeah.
Now, what was your takeaway? Like, what was your, I guess, expectation of your MP5 versus the reality or the aftermath or whatever of the MP5? Like, what's your thoughts before and after?
I kind of had some thoughts that, like, hey, this is a cool platform. It's not really practical in the modern age when you consider the other options we have. That was just confirmed tenfold. I mean, every time you reload it, dude, how it works, you need to lock back the bolt unless you're downloading your mags. The mag wheel's super small. You do have a paddle mag release and you have a push button too, but even your fingers probably couldn't reach that push button. The safety is, I have the Magpul grip on mine and the Magpul safety, so it's better than most, but it's still not ideal. I just wouldn't trust the gun for frontline use. If I had to use an HK MP5 over anything else, it'd probably be fine. But you really got to hope you don't have a malfunction, because it's not as easy. It's easier to clear than an AR-15 in some ways, because if you have a malfunction, you just rip out the mag and then cycle the bolt. But I will say I've had some malfunctions with that gun where brass gets caught in some weird places and you're not fixing it.
You're digging
Like,
it out.
Correct. You might even have to pop the gun open. Whereas with an AR, 99.9% of the time, lock that bolt back, rip that mag out, run the charging handle, and unless it's a stuck case, reload a fresh mag and you're good to go.
Speaking of an AR, and it happened one time, and this was years and years ago, the only thing I've ever had literally kind of shut down an AR for me was a primer came off and it went right in the freaking trigger pack. That's the only. I was like, why won't this damn thing fire? And I kept going through it, and I had to get a flashlight out, and then I had to get a pick out to get the damn thing out of there. And I'm like, that's like a fluke. But did it happen? Yeah, it happened. But I don't think, and also I was thinking, damn, is this happening all the time? And no, there was literally only one in there.
And also, this is kind of drove me a little bit crazy. The class, most of the people were not that professional pistol shooters. Most work we did on the 3-yard line. If I had a rifle go down, and I would transition to my handgun probably with inside 50 yard. Like, unless I can run for cover and fix the problem, I'm transitioning my handgun if I'm within 50 yards. Yeah. If I get a revolver on, I'm doing it within 25. I know that's probably an exception in handgun skill, but it is what it is. So that kind of drove me a little bit crazy too.
And I've played with MP5s. I've never owned one, but I've played with them and shot them. I've shot the full auto. I've shot the regular one. I've shot one clone also. But to me, I'm not saying that they're bad. They're just freaking tiny for me. It's like,
they are tiny, but at the same time, my MP5 is a lot bigger than my CMMG Descent.
Yeah.
So if I want to throw it in a bag, it doesn't have any advantage. Even an MP5K is going to be about the same size and same weight as my 300 Blackout CMMG Descent.
Yeah.
What would you rather have? A 300 Blackout pushing it right at, I think when I chronoed it, I've got the info on my phone, it was doing like 2,100 feet per second.
Yeah.
Of a 110 grain pill out of a 300 Blackout, would you rather have 1,100 feet of a 124 grain?
What do you think I would rather have? As a matter of fact, it's funny that you said that. Look what Clyde's asking. 10.5 AR pistol for a travel/truck gun. What are you going with? 5.56 or 300 Blackout? What are you taking?
Is it a true AR pistol, or can I run a CMMG Descent or a Rattler?
He's saying AR pistol because we're trying to go most common. So
I'm honestly, for a travel gun, I'm going to go 5.56 for ammo availability, and I like the idea that it's a little bit flatter.
Okay. And I know what I'm going with. I'm going with 300 Blackout because in those scenarios, I'm throwing this out there. In those scenarios, if you have to go through car doors, if you have to go through any kind of barrier, if you have to do something, I would rather have the 300 Blackout for that situation. I'm not saying 5.56, 77 grain pill. It can definitely mess some stuff up, but I'm going 300 Black if I have the option. And I do. I have both of them in one bag. So, and there's the reason I built that setup, and it's exactly for that reason. So that way, all of it's in one. And then also, now we're going to talk about weather conditions during, I want you to bring that up, and then also failures of what you saw.
So weather conditions. The first night we were there, it rained pretty heavily. Seeing that with the light, it really didn't affect me because I was running a Safariland holster with a hood on it. But the guys who were running open holsters with open and closed emitters had water pulling up on their dots in the first shot or two. Sometimes it was causing issues, and depending on their eyesight, I think this might have also been an issue with corrective lenses, contacts, everything else. They were having a hard time picking up that dot and seeing where it actually was. Again, with the Safariland holsters with the hood, and there were guys that were running the Safariland holsters who'd taken the hoods off.
I took mine off.
Yeah. Well, you took the thumb brake though. Did you take the optic hood or both?
I took the optic hood off. Yep.
You might want to put it back on.
Well, let me rephrase that. I took the thumb brake off because I hate that damn. I can't use them. My hand's too big. And then I actually ended up popping the hood off. I still have it, but I ended up popping the hood off because it was just, and it's easy. You load it, snap it back down. It's not anything, but I was just like, I don't need that right now. So I took it off. But yeah, you brought up a very valid point there. Now, as far as, and I talked to you about this, you get water buildup on your, whether it be, enclosed or non-enclosed. But that is another reason, and I tell people if you've got enclosed, non-enclosed, it doesn't matter. I recommend the cat crap, because of the fog / stuff. Yeah, if you don't want to buy cat crap, you can actually put, it doesn't really help with the fog, but you can put Rain-X on it. So literally when you come out, if there's, if it's cooling on there, it shears off pretty quickly. It's just a starch. I've talked about this before. It's just basically a potato will do the same damn thing. But it leaves that milky shit where Rain-X and cat crap don't. But I would recommend, and that's what we're talking about. If you're not a dot person and you're not going to maintain your dot, clean it, put cat crap on it periodically or Rain-X or whatever, that's just kind of some normal maintenance I would recommend to your dots. I'm not saying you got to do it every day. And the way that I tested mine, and I was telling Harry this, the way that I tested mine is y'all know that I barbecue a lot. So I've got a spritzer bottle that I can put apple cider vinegar in or other things that I put in it. I won't give away all my secrets, but also I have a water bottle where it's just spraying water like for ribs. And I've sprayed my optics before without cat crap and with cat crap to see if there's a difference with Rain-X, without Rain-X, just so I can test them. And it really does help. I'm not saying it's the end all be all, but it helps. It's just a preventative thing. Not saying it couldn't eventually wipe off or wear off. And then as far as failures.
So there was one aim point. It seemed like half the guys in the class were running VP9s with aim point acros. This was an HK centric class. So the handguns in the class were either Staccato, Glock. There were 2 guys running XDs, I believe, and then everything else was HK VP9s with two P30s and it might just been the 2 P30s. But there were roughly 26 people, probably 5 or 6 Staccatos. One of the aim point acros went down. It was a P2. It was an early one, though. He had got it when it first came out. And then a couple of the Holosuns went down. I don't know as much. The aim point acro had issues with water getting inside the lenses.
Yeah.
And everything fogged up.
And, I got one of the first, not the first, I don't want to say that, but I got the first introduction of the acro P2s. And granted, I haven't gone out and shot in water or any, rain or torrential downpours or anything, but I haven't had any issues yet. Even with just, when you have it against your body and it's freaking hot outside and you're sweating, or take it and put it in the air conditioner, that could create a condensation issue and potentially water or moisture could get in from your sweat. I haven't experienced any of that yet. Threat Cadre's in the house. Hello, Threat Cadre. How are you, sir?
How are you doing, Greg?
Now, here's a question. This is actually a good question because you know him. I know him. Clyde is asking, can you recommend any other bags for AR pistols comparable to the lengths that you carry?
What context are you carrying these in? Is this concealment or just going to the range and you don't care if anybody knows there's a gun in there? What context? Because
I do, and I don't know we'll find out where he's going with this, but I do have a lot of people that want links. They're expensive, and I understand.
Yeah, they are.
It's not in everybody's budget. I understand that. We want to help everyone. So, Clyde, if you could tell us, you don't care if it screams gun, or are you looking for the incognito guy, or you just want a good range bag?
In general, I'll just say probably Savior is probably going to offer the most.
That's what I was going to say is Savior. They make good stuff. you can pick
as long as
zippers.
your zippers don't go bad. Yeah,
That's what I was
zippers
just
is really the
fixing
only
to
weak
say.
point.
Yeah, I was just fixing to say their zippers aren't the greatest, but travel bags incognito. So that's what he's saying. Travel bags incognito.
Man, honestly, buy something big enough to cover the AR. Lynx Defense does make the policy, which is a lot better price point. You can run an AR with a 20-round mag in there, or you could. I mean, if you're really trying to be on a budget, take some thick towels and just cover the gun with it and throw it inside a regular backpack that's big enough to fit the AR. Choose whatever brand you find at your local store.
I've actually seen people, and this is what I even recommend. You can go to an Army Navy store because I've seen plenty of people do it, and they get those sleeping bags like the military guys used to carry their sleeping bags in, and they take the sleeping bag out, and then they just put their rifle in there and throw it up on their back, and it just looks like, oh, the guy's got to sleep, because then you could wrap it with towels. If I'm walking around with towels on a gun,
no, I'm saying just to keep it,
yeah.
Throw it in a backpack, but use the towels or whatnot to keep it separate from all your other stuff.
Yeah,
because you don't want gun oil and carbon. Like I travel a lot of times with a Mystery Ranch pack, and it's got 2 compartments. One has my laptop, notebooks, all that sort of stuff, chargers, and then the other compartment's my main compartment. So I'll keep the CMMG Descent with the Lynx Defense policy, separating it from my T-shirts, a bathroom bag, everything I need for an overnight trip.
Yep. And then Pistol Pete has a good question, because I've been asked this. What shot timer do you guys use?
I think I use the gray one. What is it called? It's not the pack. It's the other one. It's the comp.
Yours is the comp, I think. I use the pack, and I mean, mine works great. It's freaking loud as hell. I tested a bunch of them before I bought mine, and I'm not saying mine is the loudest. There could be something that's louder now, but man, I have to put a piece of tape over it because it freaks my dogs out. And I know there's a bunch of new ones that came out, like the Kestrel, and they've got even that one that syncs up with your phone to where if you're shooting a video, it'll sync onto your phone and show all the times and stuff. I haven't used one of those. I know some people do. But I don't know what that is, Threat Cadre. He's saying he runs a
Ebler stock. It means probably auto correct for Ebler stock.
Oh, okay.
Would be my guess.
Okay. Yeah, Pistol Pete says he has the Kestrel timer, because Kestrel came out with the new timers. They're pretty big. I think Ben Stoker's running those now too. They're big yellow ones with a hanger. But I haven't even seen one of those in the wild yet. Personally, I'm in to where I can put my hand on it, so I don't know. Yeah, I was going to say, this is just me. So that Savor, they have that guitar case. This is just me. I cannot get into that. I know it. A lot of people like it and stuff, but me personally, I'm just like,
I'm going to say this. Do not get that unless you play guitar and you can have a conversation with somebody about what guitar you have in that bag and everything about it. Same with the tennis bag. Same with using any kind of golf, whatever. You can use any of that stuff to transport firearms. But if Mike, he plays golf, he knows a lot about golf, or he used to play golf. He could use a golf bag, throw ARs broken down in there, the cover would hold up. Now, if you give me a guitar bag, the cover's not going to hold up. The whole thing about putting camera stickers and all that, that's a great thing to steal because it's so easy to fleece a camera. It's easier than fleecing a gun. But, I can't talk about cameras. I don't know anything about them. It's got to be something that's genuine to you. You can definitely use those methods of concealment, but be able to have a conversation with somebody about what's in the bag.
Yeah, because I'd run
or what's theoretically.
I'd run into some guitar fanatic, and he'd be like, "Dude, let me see your Gibson." And I'd be like, "I can't open this." Yeah, that might not fly. Because Gibson's the only brand I know, so I just have to say, yeah, it's a Gibson. And he'd be like,
Gibson or a Martin, it's a multi-$1,000 guitar.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he'd be like, "Oh, is it the Gibson that Jimi Hendrix played?" I'd be like, I don't know. Yeah, so I don't think I could get out of that one. But that's the thing. I think if you find something that works for you, and granted, have I ever carried something that screams gun into a hotel or to travel with? Yes, I have.
So
I have.
A buddy of mine thought he was being really smart. He started using a DeWalt drill bag.
Ooh,
to conceal his pistols in
yeah,
his truck, leave it on the seat. I'm like, dude, that is the first thing somebody's gonna bust a window out
yeah.
to
I
take.
want
They
those.
know that's $20 at the pawn shop all day
Yeah,
long.
I want those drills. Yeah, or I want those tools. Yeah, you don't. I mean, and I remember you used to be able to buy like the little Craftsman. They look like a, and I do carry a tool bag in my truck when I carry, use my truck. I've got tools literally in a tool bag. Um, but I've used some of those tool bags back in the day to just throw pistols in and walk around with them. And everybody's like, "Oh yeah, you got tools in there?" I'm like, "Yeah," and they're like, "Oh, are you a Snap-on guy or a Mac guy?" I'm like, yeah," and I can speak tools, but it's like, and again, I don't get. Oh, I was going to say, for example, look who we're talking to, and probably is the biggest guitar, because Uncle Dan's a guitar player. Have you ever watched him play guitar and sing?
No.
That sucker he can play guitar, and that
See?
man can sing. Yep.
So this is somebody who's qualified to use the Savior case, the Savior
Yeah,
guitar
exactly.
case.
Yeah, because he can literally sing and play guitar. I've seen him, and I'm just like, damn, he's actually got a voice. So I can't do any of that shit. But yeah, and that, and I could get away with a, golf bag and stuff like that. I could get into golf bag and have multiple ones in there, be like, yeah, I'll use the 308 on this hole or the 300 blackout on this hole. Uh, but yeah, it's, there's all kinds of things. But so there was an aim point that got water in it. Hollow suns, were failing, like literally not working, I guess, is what they found out. Now, here's where I go with that. The aim point, yeah, it's a sealed unit. It got moisture in it, so be it. But the hollow sun, did the guys change their batteries? Did they maintain them properly? Did the battery just go dead at that particular time? Or did they put the battery in it and they didn't tighten it up all the way and water got in there and intruded it and shorted it out? I mean, we don't know on that one. But did any dots fly off either the MP5s or any of the pistols that you noticed? Anybody have one fly off or any of that kind of stuff?
So nothing flew off, but some of the Hollow Suns, I was not at that part of the line with any of those guys, so I don't know exactly. Well, one guy had an issue with his Staccato CS, and that gun went from him hitting pretty well to him not hitting at all. So we're not sure. The mount and everything seemed good on the dot. So I'm thinking the dot might have lost zero in some way.
Oh,
And then I remember telling you
yep. Go
there was
ahead.
also a guy running a SIG P226 Legion with an SRO that dot just went haywire. Like at 10 yards, the instructor who was certified with Scott Jedlinski and with Aaron Cowan on teaching red dot class, this guy was a competent shooter. I saw his groups in the class. He could not hold more than 2 out of 3 shots on a full-size steel at 10 yards with that. So he could have point shot it better than he was shooting it with the dot.
Yeah, and as far as the Trijicon SRO, I had one where the reticle separated, so it should have been in the center, and I just laid it in the safe sideways, and then it went whoop like that, and I told Trijicon about it, and they were like, "Oh, you had a dot separation." I mean, she knew exactly what it was when I was talking to her on the phone. She's like, "Send it in, we'll repair it or replace it," and they had to send me a new dot. That was
I
during.
think it's very likely that happened.
Yeah, so that could have been what happened. So that just kind of goes back to, can a gun fail in different situations? An actual gun, yes. Can a dot fail? Yes. But then again, people are like, that's why I use iron sights. I've had iron sights fly off. So, I have a video where I'm shooting and the freaking front sight flies off, and it was factory installed. And then I also had one where it was aftermarket and it flew off. Then I had one that walked off the back from a backside. So anything can happen. Your brand new car that you buy tomorrow can shit the bed when you drive out of the lot. So anything can happen. But
my Glock 48 that I carry, that rear sight has loosened up. It has a dot on it though. The dot's never had an issue.
now is it a factory site or aftermarket site?
It's a Dawson. It's a Dawson
Okay.
to co-witness with the dot. And then I've got the Ameriglows on my Glock 19X that I had milled, and that rear sight started walking. So, but at least with the Dawsons, I can tighten them down with a set screw. You can't even do that with the Ameriglow. Like I will not. I say I will not, but it's going to be hard for me to have a high round count carry gun that doesn't have a rear sight with a set screw, just because of the experiences I've had. I've had too many come loose.
Yeah. So where we're going, or what I kind of wanted to bring this up and talk about the training classes and things like that, is, you're going to have weather issues. You're going to have, anything and everything can happen. Just like when you're driving your car and it starts raining, you turn on your windshield wipers. I mean, stuff like that's for a reason. But, you're not going to be able to, have a windshield wiper on your dot. But, you just have to kind of adapt around different situations. And then, like I've talked about before, as long as your dot is physically on the gun, your frame, and if your dot were to go down, you can still use that square or that circle or whatever it is as an aiming device.
Yeah.
Then that's what I've always talked about, just kind of frame that around the person, because I've turned my dot completely off, like into night vision mode, so I can't see it with my human eye. And I've just been like, okay, just done reps like that. Like if it went down, could I still hit something? And I've done it at the range. I've taken the front and the back of the dot, so I can't see the sights and I can't see the dot either side, not just included, but both sides.
And that's something that works fine during the day.
Correct.
But
Yep.
when you go low light, I'm really thinking about changing my carry guns out to have a front night sight, even though they're running a dot. I always thought that was stupid before this experience.
Well, and here's where, and I've talked about this and I've proven it, and I showed it to Bald and he actually tried it and it worked for him. If you're carrying a weapon light and you're going to turn it on because, shit's getting crazy, if you run a fiber optic, whether it's green or red or whatever, it doesn't matter. The second you hit that light on, it will actually glow that front fiber optic in white. It won't light up the color of it. And you can use your rear sights, to see how that's working too. Just even if you don't have a dot, but if you've got the fiber optic front, it'll work with a light. Even a handheld. So, I've done it with a handheld and it'll work too.
Uncle Dan brought up a good point.
It has to bounce off something.
Uncle Dan brought up a good point. He goes, wearing a headlamp will screw up a pistol dot. You can see nothing but the glare. Really bad when a bear is charging you. And so during the light course, we used, the old FBI technique.
Yep.
And we were using that specifically, and they were going, hey, a lot of guys are going to have issues when you're running dots with this not working. I do not know about other dots, but the SRO had zero issues with that.
Wow.
Zero.
It was kind of hooded.
Because it's so big and the blue tint.
Wow.
I could see like the Hollow Sun EPS, maybe some of the smaller windowed optics having more, because they have more shadow too.
Yeah.
Coming in from the sides. So
and speaking,
SRO wasn't an issue.
Yeah, you brought that up, the EPS carry. I've seen them, I've played around with them in the store, I've never taken one outside. I've never had one on a gun personally, but I did shoot that TIOS, that double stack TIOS. It's my buddy that works there. It's his gun. He just bought it. He's got Atlas, he's got Shadow 2s, he's got really nice 2011s, and all that other stuff. But he wanted to get this gun and try it out. So he took it straight out of the box, brought it into the range, and he shot it just to see how it shot. And he was going to dial on the dot. And I was there, and he's like, hey, I want you to shoot this and see what you think about it. Because, we have a lot in common as far as guns and stuff. And he's a very competent shooter. And so I tried it and did that video. That was my very first shots. But that was also my very first shot or very first test or using the new EPS carry, because I've never shot with one before. And he had already mounted it on that gun. And I've had so many people ask me, hey, what do you think about it? And I'm like, man, it looks cool in the store, but I've never shot it, so I don't know. Well, now I've actually shot it, and I actually liked it. Now, it was the RMSC, so it's, it's the little smaller one, the carry version. It's not the bigger one, the regular version. But I actually really liked that dot. I was like, this is nice. And I was always thinking, it's enclosed, just a smaller enclosed. But I like the I like the setup of it and everything, just from playing around with it. But I actually got to shoot it, and I know you have one or maybe two, but I had never tried it before, and I was actually pretty impressed. And then I was thinking, you know what, that could be my next dot. So if I buy another one for a certain setup. But one thing I don't know, and maybe people can answer it here, on the full size version, not the EPS carry, but the EPS regular one, what footprint is that?
So it's still the K footprint, but it comes with a plate to where it comes with an adapter plate so you can mount it directly to an RMR as well using the plate. So if you have an RMR footprint, you can put that on, convert it to the RMR, and then the K screws into that.
Okay, and that's what Armsman told me too. But because for some reason I knew the screws were back, and I was like, "Is that a Delta Point Pro footprint?" I didn't know.
So another thing is if you're using what's the tool that I have? Fix-It sticks.
Yeah.
You're going to need a longer bit to clear the EPS.
Yeah.
Than you would. Them. Yeah, because it's so something to take into account, so you don't scratch up the optic.
Yeah, what I use is I've got the DeWalt version and I have a Milwaukee version, but it's the 10 millimeter and it's the extended, so it's real thin shanked, but it's got the extra spurs that stick out so you won't strip a screw. And
That'll be perfect.
I've been using those forever because there were a lot of areas I had to get in with those, and I've never messed up one of those bits. They work great. I think they're silicon carbide, or they're not carbide. What the hell am I trying to say? It's I forget the damn metal, but it's like extra good, so you won't strip them off. But and then here, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Or you go ahead.
I was just going to say, so yeah, I would use that on that dot because I did notice it looking at his. I was like, yeah, you'll need the extension, but I've had to use the extension on some of my other dots as well. But and then as far as your favorite, optic for like AR pistols, AR-15, like dot wise, holographic wise, what do you prefer? And I know that you have multiple ones, but what is your preference?
So Clyde's asking, what dot do I carry on my CMMG? Yeah, so on the Descent, I've got an Acro in a amble mount. So it's the little mount that A&R Designs makes that has the front sight and rear sight built into the mount. I really like it on that super short platform because it does give me backup irons. Now, if the dot bust, I'm SOL. I'd have to get a torque wrench and screw the dot off. But it's, allows me to have some sort of backup sighting device on the gun without, you don't have a lot of rail space. I do have a Trijicon magnifier on the back of that that's QD, so I can take that off easily. And then I've got a mod light, PDW light on the front, which, I wouldn't mount this on a 16-inch or probably even a 10.5 AR, but on these really short guns, I love that PDW light, and I really like the Aimpoint Acro with that. And I see the Acro clearer than any other dot. It's the most crisp dot to me. The Aimpoint T2, which a lot of people say is the best for them, is not a good dot. And the SIG Romeo 4T, I got to check one of those out at that class, and it was one of the newer ones. I know they've gone through some iterations. It's solid. I think I'm probably going to end up getting one of those to replace the Trijicon T2 on my Honey Badger pistol.
Now, what do you feel about the Trijicon? I already know the answer. What do you feel about the Trijicon MRO?
With my eyes, man, it doesn't really work that well. Yeah. It's squiggly as all get out. I can't even get a steady aiming point because it's not a big dot. It's like a pill shape.
I saw your short on that, and I started laughing when you and Michael were talking about that. I was like, yeah, I could see that. And he was like, yeah, that's a Trijicon feature that they put in there, all the big squiggly thing.
He sees it clear. He sees it clear.
And that just shows how eyes are different. I've looked at it and I'm like, is it perfect? No. Could I use it? Probably. Would it be my preferred? Probably not. But it is what it is. Do you have any experience with the Holosun 510C?
So not much experience, but I looked through one, and this shows you how screwed up my eyes are. I literally saw like the reticle overlapping.
Oh.
So it was perfectly clear. I just saw two reticles barely overlap, but I've looked through others and they're clear. So that might have been my eyesight. And this was years ago, so it was an earlier one, but it seems like a great option if you're not going to go with EOTech. But if I'm going to go with that style optic, I'm probably just going to pony up and get a Sig Romeo 8T.
Yeah, it wasn't mine. I've looked through plenty of the 510Cs, and then I hadn't shot one until my buddy put one on his AR, and I tried it. I thought it was actually pretty nice. It's open emitter, but it's not a big deal. I thought it was fine. You know, the price point's right on them. I would have, because I had the Huey, I would have rather had the 512, you know, because it's more of the enclosed one. Remember, you and I talked about that. I really loved that dot, and I should have bought it before they canceled them. But if you could find a 512, because there's still some new ones out there floating around.
Only with the gold reticle, though.
Do what now?
Only with the gold reticles.
Oh, is that what it is? I mean, well,
yeah, I tried to find one.
Yeah, because I was going to say I looked around for them too, and I saw some, but I didn't. You're probably right, because I think Primary had some of the gold ones. But yeah, I mean, I think that 512 is awesome. I mean, I should have bought it. I had an opportunity to buy it, and I was like, damn. And then after they discontinued them, I'm like, but maybe you could find one used too, you know, as long as it worked. I mean, you know, I think that was a really cool, because it's clearer to me than a holographic, but you're not staring at, you shouldn't stare at the dot or the holographic, of course, you're looking through it, but you know, they are weird.
So here's another, you know, looking at the target, not at the reticle, the EOTech, like that's the thing you might want to try, Scott, is make sure you are target focused, because EOTech is pretty darn, at least for most people I've talked to, it's pretty darn clear if you're target focused. It does have a little bit of pixelation, but it's still a clear reticle. My EOTech, though, went off both days that I was running the MP5 in that class. I caught it. Just went off because it has an 8-hour timeout.
Yeah, the timer. Okay. I thought you meant it failed and went off.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm used to going to the range, turning it on, and I wouldn't even run an EOTech for home defense. I wouldn't run an EOTech for anything. If I was a cop and had one in a patrol gun, I'd be running Aim Point or Hollow Sun or something with a 50,000 hour battery life.
Yeah. No, it is weird. And that's the thing also, you know, even with my Huey, you know, and like if you've got it turned off, because the Huey will time off too. But the way that I have, like, you know, my 300 with the Huey on it, like when I pick it up, say it's just been sitting there and it's timed out. When I pick it up, I've got my hand here and my thumb comes up onto the back button to either press the up or down, so it'll just kick on. And then, you know, it stays wherever brightness I had it set up, but I have to push the button to kick it back on. So I've just gotten the habit of coming up like that with my thumb on the button to pop it. And, you know, I hate it, but then again, it's freaking holographic, so it chews batteries. If there was a way to leave it on, it'd be gone in 4 days. It just eats batteries.
Yeah.
So that is the bad thing about that. And then, you know, as far as anything else that you took away from, well, I guess the final, you know, main question, because I haven't gotten your final results. During the class, you know, your dot was fixed, it was secured, all that good stuff. What was your final finding? Because you've taken plenty of classes with Glock. So what was your final finding of the Staccato after the class?
The Staccato, it's fine. It shoots well. It definitely has more of a maintenance requirement than I'm used to with Glocks. It runs fine as long as you're going to stay on top of maintenance. The gun is big, though. It's a big gun for what it offers in terms of capacity. I'm probably going to end up getting a Staccato C when those drop. Just, you know, probably be 6 months or whatever from when they drop, just given how hard they'll be to get. And I'm willing to give that a shot and see how it goes, because there's, you know, distance-wise, I haven't gotten a chance to push the Staccato out, but with a Glock, I can reliably, with a red dot, hit it 100 yards. I mean, at 75 yards, it's 100% if I'm able to take my time. And at 100 yards, I can probably nail it about 9 out of 10. With a Staccato, with that trigger, I bet you I could 9 out of 10 on 150 yards.
Yeah.
So there's definitely some advantages on accuracy, but shooting for speed up close,
And if people don't
And
know, the gun that Harry has, his Staccato, is an all steel P.
yeah,
So just because some people might say, "Hey, what Staccato did you run?" We haven't. I don't think we've actually classified which one you ran in there. It was just a Staccato.
and I'll say this: I do not have the fastest split time. I can shoot a revolver. I can get a revolver if I'm just pulling the trigger down to point about 0.28 splits is the lowest I've got. I might have got one at like 0.25. A double action revolver though. You're trying a
Yeah.
Taurus A56 with like a 12-pound trigger. I can get reliable hits with the double action revolver at 70 yards in the upper A zone with 0.35 splits, though.
Yeah.
And I can do about 0.28 splits with the Staccato and about 0.28 splits with the Glock. My split time really doesn't change, but I don't have a super fast trigger finger.
Well, and also you've spent years and years and years on Glocks. You haven't spent years and years and years on Staccato either. I'm not,
No. Yeah.
And even if
yeah.
you had a, equal time on both, I just think, and this is just me splurting out crap. I mean, you're splurting out my experiences. I'm faster with a 1911 trigger / 2011 trigger than I am with any polymer guns. Now, I'm talking weight aside.
Yeah.
If I bench rested both of them and literally set them on a table, so all the weight is gone, I'm not getting any recoil, none of that. I'm faster with a, what am I trying to say?
With a 2011 trigger. Yeah.
With a 2011, 1911 trigger, single action trigger is what I'm trying to say. I am faster with a single action. And it could even be a 4.5 pound single action. It doesn't have to be a 2 pound or 3 pound, which I prefer. I'm just faster. So, and a lot of that is when you're pulling a trigger, you're compensating for the hinge, which you're not with a single action trigger, or I should say with a 2011, 1911 trigger, because there are other single action guns with a hinge trigger, but it's just faster for me. Now, do I need that kind of speed? Stressful wise, I don't know, but that's what I prefer if I have the choice. And that's even on ARs. I actually prefer, lighter triggers even on my AR because I'm not putting my booger hook in there,
It's one of those things. It just comes down to like you could definitely get for years. All my ARs had stock triggers. In the last couple of years, I got the Honey Badger. I've now got the Geisley. The CMG Descent comes with a pretty good trigger. Like by default, I've gotten some guns with some pretty nice triggers. And because if I'm building the gun myself, I'm fairly cheap when I'm doing that, so I'm not getting a good trigger. But you can shoot just as well with a lesser trigger, but you're going to take a little bit of a time penalty in most cases. But I've also noticed when you have that crappy trigger, you're forced to pay more attention to some of the fundamentals sometimes. So you might get 2 shots off and get a hit, or you might get 1 shot off that's still get a hit. It comes down to training. Like revolvers, I ran a revolver for one drill at that class. I hit all 6 shots. Guys with Staccatos, VP9s, whatever, were missing multiple shots at the same ranges, and here I am with a 38 caliber, 6-shot, 16-ounce revolver, hitting steel, and I'm doing it at a fire rate close to what they're doing. Not quite as good, but it's close, and it's because I train with it and I know my limitations.
Yeah.
You just got to decide if the money's worth spending or not, really. And with a Staccato, you have to maintain it more so than you do most striker fired guns, and you're going to pay about 4 to 6 times more.
Yep. In the way that I look at it, like even if you were to completely bench rest both those guns, and say
Staccato's going to win.
Yeah, and also if you bench rested those guns and you had a machine where you plug the machine in it and it's pulling the trigger, so you're taking completely you out of the mix, it's going to be more accurate. There's all kinds of variables there. But will both of them do the job? Hell yeah, they will. A high point will do the job too. But I've actually seen, because they're not in business anymore, but Fire for Effect actually had a machine where they would vise your gun in, and it actually had a machine where they pull, they
Ransom rest, probably, right?
Yeah, it was a complete. I mean, this thing was bolted to the concreted in the damn floor of their indoor shooting. So, I mean, I saw this in action, and they tested like even factory Glock barrels. Like they tested the Gen 3, the Gen 4, aftermarket barrels, Gen 5. I literally was there while they were doing this. And guess which Glock barrel won? Factory, not aftermarket. Or actually, I
Doesn't
guess you could
surprise
say
me.
this. Guess which Glock barrel beat even the aftermarket ones. Now these weren't threaded; they were all non-threaded versions. But guess which one won?
Factory
But which gen?
5.
Yep, Gen
Yeah.
5 beat all of them. Same freaking gun. It was a old Gen 3 Glock, in the barrel, or maybe it was no, it was an aftermarket. That's what it was. It was a lower because all the barrels, yeah, all the barrels will go into a Gen 3, correct?
I don't. I always kind of stick with the
I
gen
think
that it
that's what it
says on
was. But actually, I watched them change the barrels out. Do the same thing. But anyway, the Gen 5 factory Glock barrel beat like I mean all these tricked out barrels. Threaded barrels. It beat Silencer Co. barrels. It beat Faxon. I mean, it was beating all these, and it was just the
Now, I'm
factory.
sure if they had like a Barstow or KKM fitted barrel, that'd be a different
And it,
story. But
and it could, yeah, it could be,
yeah,
but they were just testing some of these that they had, and I thought that was kind of interesting. But and then also we all know that it comes down to the Indian also, not just the arrow, because people can take any of my guns and probably shoot them way more accurate than me. So, you know, um, but Insight, they actually decided to close. What was it? How's it? About a year or so ago now, I guess. Um, it just they did, and I hated it because they're great people. But yeah, no, I appreciate you being on. Heck, we've gone quite a bit over, which I hope everybody got a kick out of it, and it's great to have you on and sharing these
yeah, great
experiences.
to be on. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I think it was really great to share these experiences and some of the things you've seen in classes now. And I'm going to say I'm going to ask you this question: do you feel, because you probably know how I feel, do you feel that everyone should take classes?
So there is a large financial. Being a single male, it's much easier for me to go spend money on that than my friends who. And firearms is my business. It's a tax deductible expense because I'm doing R&D and stuff while I'm doing it. It's a different.
Yeah.
But I do think there are local classes most places that will put you in situations that you would not be in otherwise. And if you could find, it doesn't have to be a big name instructor. If you could find somebody that's competent, not a joke, they will hopefully put you in situations that get you thinking, and then you can do homework on your own to figure things out. Like I'm already coming up with gear ideas and realizing weaknesses that I fulfill from a skill set standpoint and a gear standpoint. Like I was talking about with the lights and having, a decently carryable light that has momentary on as an option that doesn't have multiple outputs. I think everybody should try if they can, but they also have to look at their financial situation, see if it makes sense.
Yeah. And the way that, or my perspective would be, is it mandatory? No, that you take a
No.
class. However, I would recommend, people become very familiar with whatever firearm it is and go and spend some time shooting it. Spend some, not buy the gun, load the magazine and put it in your sock drawer. Because for one, you don't know what the recoil is going to be like. You can anticipate a whole bunch of stuff, just take it to the range periodically and be somewhat familiar with it. And then, as far as my classes, I've done competitions. I took an AK class, and the reason I did it is because I'm not super proficient with AKs, and I wanted to take the class and see how I did. And then I've taken an advanced pistol class because I had the opportunity to do it. So, I haven't taken 9 million classes. And will I? No. I'll probably take some more, but, and I'm not saying an old dog can't learn new tricks because I learn stuff every day. So I'm very open-minded to new opportunities and, new grips and new things to try. Such as the experience I'm going down now. If you've watched the video, and this is for a reason, I have this MPA 5.7, and I'll get into it more as the series goes. So if you want to follow along with it, and the very first video, opening the box, it got demonetized instantly from YouTube. I don't know why. I have an idea, but I have the one where I've shot it, and I had another person shoot it as well, and that video has not been demonetized, so it'll be coming out soon. But this is a purpose-driven reason to have this, and I'll get into it more if you want to follow along with it. But anything that you have coming up that you, and also, I don't know if you follow Harry's Holsters, but please do. He's got 2 channels. One, he does a bunch of shorts on them, and some of them are funny as hell. And some of them make you think, which is good. But do you have anything, coming up on the short aspect or even the regular channel?
Just kind of, we plan on doing some shorts on revolver ammo and testing velocities coming up here. Just checking out what's on the market and seeing what's a good option for self-defense, because it's not easy to find good revolver ammo right now. Got that coming up. And then I just want to say to everybody, as far as like parting thoughts, get out there and test your gear. If you're not going to take a class, go in your backyard and play around with a flashlight. Just see about getting your grip. If you can, go to a range at night or in low light, go shoot in those other circumstances. Do things kind of out of your norm. Play around with your EDC light and holding it in different techniques. A lot of this stuff is available online. You just have to get out there and find it, and then don't take somebody's word for what you see on YouTube. Get out there and test it yourself, because somebody might go like me. The aim-point accuracy is the clearest dot to my eye. You might not be able to see it worth a damn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Uncle Dan had his with his specific headlamp and his red dot, he had glare coming back. I did not have that with my light up here in the FBI position with an SRO. But if I'd go and pull out an RMR, I might have that problem, or a Hollow Sun 507K.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's in people see me do flashlight testing out in my backyard with the tree and everything. I don't just do testing out there. I'm the goofball that unloads my gun, so all the ammo's away. I've got my crap on. I'm out there, drawing in the backyard, kind of doing my little LARPing. I'll admit it. I'm out there testing stuff and seeing, hey, this works for me. This light sucks. I don't like this one. I don't like that one. So yeah, I'm out there doing that as well. And of course, in the daytime, if I'm out there barbecuing, people don't know this, but with my barbecue videos, I've got a gun on me. And there's been times where I'll, pop it out of the holster, and I've actually unloaded it, and I'm like, just doing dry fire out there while I'm waiting for the, the fire to go and stuff like that. And don't use lighter fluid for any people who barbecue. Don't do that shit. That's horrible. But that's what I do, and I enjoy it. Don't drink while you're doing it, but I don't do that. But yeah, no, this has been a really good chat, and it's always, like I said, you're a good friend. I know that we talk like 2 or 3 times a week at least. So, and I'm excited for what you have coming out, as far as your videos, and also, as far as your holsters too. I've definitely been beating you up over that, that light bearing one. So I'll be excited when that one comes out, and want to see what it's about. So, or them, I guess I shouldn't say one.
Yeah,
them.
it's going to be, you guys will be pretty happy with the options, I think, when they drop.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to give it away or anything, but, in the low light class, I guess I want to ask this, because I did forget to ask this. I didn't write it down, but I'm thinking about it now. In your low light class, as far as rifles and pistols, what kind of lights were you seeing? And I know they could vary between the rifle and the pistol, but what like brands, or what were you seeing the most of? And did anybody have any, weapon mounted light failures or rifle?
None that I know of on the weapon mounted light or the rifle. Pretty much everybody was running Surefire or Cloud. From what I saw, not Cloud, Mod Light. There might have been a few Clouds. With the handheld stuff, it was a lot more diverse.
Okay.
So
But,
I mean,
but
there's the Phoenix,
you didn't see any rifle or PDW lights go down, pistol lights or handhelds. Okay.
I did see some tape switch stop failures.
Okay.
Some momentary only tape switches started going constant on and would not turn off, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, that's just other things to check, and that's the reason everybody should LARP. Test your stuff, like Harry was saying, and I've said for a long time, because if you just put it on there and then throw it in the closet or put it in your safe, you don't know how the damn thing works. So, but if you're used to it, you'll learn your monetary.
And I'll say this: you can also use it a lot, and then eventually just wears out. And I know that's the deal with a lot of pressure switches.
And the old pressure switches, back in the day, man, those things. I mean, I even have. I think because I take the old ones off because I can use the fittings. Even if I had to cut them, I can. I'm talking about rigging them. I wouldn't use them for home defense or true anything. But, and I remember the old ones. You pressed them so much they actually started crunching. I mean, it sounded like not bubble wrap, but you get that when you push it down, and it wouldn't work, but or it half-ass work because they would short out. I know they've gotten better, but can stuff still fail? Yes, and that's why I'm a big proponent, even on a light, like your rifle light. If you're running a tape switch, be able to push it on from the back of the light also, not just depend on that, the pressure pad, because if that pressure pad goes out and you have no way to turn on from the back, you're done. So something else. Yeah, I really appreciate it so much. Thanks for your time, and thanks everyone for tuning in. Sorry we didn't get a ton of questions, but we will be back next Wednesday night, and I'm going to go ahead and let the chat go. Harry, you stay on for a second. But thank y'all so much, and remember, an unarmed nation is a very weak nation, so we all got to carry on. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.